Everybody, can you hear my voice?
Yes, a little loud, Sam.
Ah, tough shit, you got no choice. So grab a glass and sit back in your chair, 'cause Uncorked is going live to air.
Welcome to another episode of the Uncorked Whisky Sessions, welcoming you to the world of whiskey and beyond, getting you closer to the people and the stories at the centre of our Whiskyverse. We are the official, I don't want to do that as pigs in space. I always want to do it like that. But we are the official podcast of Boutique Whiskey, the global indie bottler. Head to our website or our socials at Boutique Whiskey.
And we got an episode, don't we? We've pressed record. Does everything seem all right, Dave?
Everything is running tickety-boo at long last. Yes.
Yeah, that's what all white men with beards say. Everything's fine. No,
everything's tickety-boo. No, it's not.
So, as usual on this podcast, we are going to tackle some big issues, but with a bit of fun. This episode's no different. Dave, you ready? I'm going to bring up the name, Jim Murray, right off the top. In September 2020, a globally recognized top whiskey critic faced accusations of sexism after our friend and journalist Becky Paskin cited on social media several examples of sexist language in his tasting notes, many of which had been in print and reprinted unchallenged for years. And then Philip Schreiberg and others widened awareness of this, and it became a really global booze story. And this was a whiskey watershed moment. It wasn't only a few words in print penned by one white man's hand that ended up being called into question, but it challenged for all of us in whiskey and in drink what sort of culture we wanted to foster. If the one we had in 2020 allowed this kind of shit not just to exist, but to actually be a celebrated voice, one of the celebrated whiskey voices, then what did that mean? And we liked that, and when it served our marketing purposes, it was fine. Because let's be clear, we all knew firsthand or had heard tales of the writer's behavior, of the writer's past indiscretions, and some of us even stopped inviting him to events. But we sure kept sending him samples, and were he to give it a 90 plus, you could be damn sure we shouted about it. So this was Whiskey's Time's Up moment, something that so many of my peers, men and women, were grateful for, and perhaps even a little ashamed of, because many of us had done nothing or had done too little. So, justice, yay! He was delisted, and companies put out formal statements. But it was not really a time to celebrate. What followed was poor. Becky's inbox became inundated with firsthand accounts from women and men, it should be said, bravely sharing their own experiences with bigotry, sexism, harassment, unfair treatment based on sex and gender or various other things and in our industry. Becky wasn't the only catalyst for confessions, because we know recently in April it was a story about Brewdog firing employees who identify as women and two who identify as trans. Were all fired from a bar in the States on International Women's Day. Kind of weird. It was a PR stunt. A lot of us were like, what the fuck's happening here? And the manager was fired. It's a bit confusing. But either way, this ended up to be a snuffed fire before a gas leak that later exploded. In May, Brienne Allen at Notch Brewing was sick of the shit she had to put up with in her feed and probably in real life as well. Harassment, dismissal based on gender or worse. So she invited people to share their stories at Rat Magnet. Disturbingly, the testimonies poured in, not dozens, but hundreds, and probably much more now. I haven't looked recently, but sexual harassment, assault, and some descriptions of workplaces so toxic. You would read some of these things and you'd say, what decade is this? Or, of course, Trump's America. But these weren't things that are necessarily due to Trump, or they weren't things only on U.S. soil. These were truly global problems. Resignations and corporate apologies followed again, and from Seattle to Scotland. So where the cinders of this International Women's Day firing in Indianapolis were brought to bright flame through an open letter signed by 60 ex-staff, and then it grew quickly to over 400, maybe more now as well, that accused Brewdog and explicitly its founders of lies, hypocrisy, and deceit, and working in a culture of fear. So, we could sit here with our guests, sipping on our barrel-aged, high IBU ales, and the people who made these drinks, our friends and our sisters and our brothers, sons and daughters, have been exploited. I don't think that's too strong a word, to bring these well-crafted drinks to our lives, that share our values, and to our lips. So it turns out we may not have been buying what we thought we were. So I've been thinking about this more and more and speaking about it with friends, that when we bought into craft, when microbrewing grew in the most liberal parts of the United States, for example, there was something we latched onto. It wasn't just the big corporations, the big monoliths of beer anymore. There are these small guys and gals, these small entities that represented something new and modern and hope. So craft maybe betrayed us. And, I don't even know what craft is, but we've invited two guests who we'll introduce in a second, who I think are well situated to speak about the whole context of this issue, about craft, about the beauty of beer and the beauty of flavor, and the struggles that we have acknowledged and that we will face in the future. The craft discussion itself is tired. What is craft? But today I want to discuss this emergence of it, what it represented as anti-whatever, what its promise was, and what in our idealized reality it means. We'll play a stupid game. We'll keep it light while we're talking about heavy shit, but we'll come back to what went wrong and how to fix it. Let's introduce our guests, Dave.
Absolutely. First, I'd like to introduce Charlotte Cook, a lawyer turned brewer. She's a thinker and doer. Charlotte has worked at Brewdog in Aberdonia, Pahala in Estonia, Spey Valley near Keith, Truman Brewery on Hipster Heath, Hamilton by London's Caledonian Road, and now Cloudwater in Indie Rock's home abode. That's Manchester. Inspired by her mum's phrase, "Scheibans get nu," Charlotte has tons of experience under her belt in just 10 years and is a leading voice in the beer community in the UK. Welcome.
Oh, so many rhymes, Dave. Beautiful intro. Hey, Charlotte. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for writing that for me, Sam.
And then, of course, Ren Navarro from Kitchener, Ontario, has worked at some well-known Ontario breweries, is a grammar Nazi, a ray of light in life insurance call centers.
No.
A Ritz cracker junkie. Is a lover of the immense diversity of flavor and style that beer provides, but a vocal and fair critic of the lazy marketing and lack of representation in it. Founder of the Society of Beer Drinking Ladies, cover model on Now magazine in Toronto, a Cicerone and Prudhomme, fashion model of those awesome Black People Love Beer shirts that I want from our friends at Crown and Hops. Founder of Beer Diversity, which you should look up, as well as Do Better, Be Better. Also look it up now. And just an all-around lovely human who I miss seeing in person. Welcome, Ren Navarro. What was the no?
Nice
What did I do wrong?
I'm not a grammar Nazi. Come on. Let's not normalize the use
You know what?
of
That's
Nazi.
fair. All right. Let's edit this now. In fact, it was a lowercase n.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
No.
See, call me out.
No.
This is exactly.
I suck at grammar. I really suck at grammar.
Are you a grammar totalitarian leader? Let's leave it.
No, not even. I'm just an English major.
You've been called
And
worse.
she has a red pen that she marks
Yes.
everything. Yeah.
Well, look.
I do too.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. We probably aren't the best people to talk about beer because especially on a hot day like we're having now, I just want piss American rice beer or Japanese rice beer. Dave, what's your beer background?
Well, I rugby club, sailing, yacht building, sailing club. And, every boat show you always met at the Guinness stand. Rugby club, you drink beer until it dribbles out the corner of your mouth, basically. And it's still stand. Rugby, Guinness and rugby, it's one of the big sponsors, and it seems to be a big sponsor at, like I say, the boat shows. It was always the old London boat show. It was always the Guinness tent that you met in. I worked in the Far East for 7 years, and it really was just ice cold German style lager, sing beer sing. and you drank it as cold as possible because it was so warm out there. So yeah, my beer knowledge is very, very limited. I have a case of Guinness in the fridge now, and recently I've started drinking. It says an Italian beer, but I've read it's not really Italian. It's owned by Heineken as well. But Birra Moretti, but I quite like that, and it's always a case of that in the fridge now as well.
Yeah, it's on special at Tesco, so that's how we shop. How do you shop, Charlotte? How did you get into beer? Why? What's the deal?
So, like you said, I was originally a lawyer. I studied law at the University of Edinburgh. And as I was approaching graduation, I realised that if I had to spend the rest of my life with those complete arseholes, then I was going to end up having to take evasive action one way or another. And I really realised that it would be way more fun to work in beer. So, finished my law degree, quickly put that into a cupboard to never be seen again, and decided that what I wanted to do was to make beer. So my parents live up in Speyside, so currently in Aberlour right now, which isn't too far from where the original Brewed brewery was established. So after a little bit of time working in the Mash Tun pub, which I'm sure quite a lot of your listeners will know, I got a job as assistant brewer at Brewdog, and it's basically just not stopped since. So.
Did you make beer at home yourself at
No.
all? Did you ever did you go through that? I mean, I remember making beer at home back in a long time ago in the 80s. Really, just to make beer so you could see how many you could drink before you fell over, or could you stand up, basically. Yeah. Homebrew kits in the 80s that you could buy in Boots the Chemist and Woolworths.
Yeah, I remember in the mid-90s, several years after my grandfather had died, finding his tin of malt extract that he'd used that he'd been doing homebrew with back in the late 80s. But no, I've actually never been a homebrewer. It's never been what I like. I once made a Hugh Fernley Whittingstall nettle beer in the bath in my student flat in Edinburgh and drank it, and it was quite nice. But beyond that, no, I've never been a home brewer. I basically just went straight from university to brewing with no real link whatsoever. I just thought it would be what I wanted to do, so I did it.
Yeah, but you knew you liked to drink beer, or you knew you were into.
I'm very, very tactile. I love to make things. I really struggle if I'm stuck in front of a computer all day, so I have to kind of touch things, get my hand in things. A good Scottish word is I'm very clarty. I like to get in and make a mess with stuff. And yeah, I love beer. I'm really, really interested in flavour, and I thought for a while that I might want to be a chef, but I don't really like being told what to do, and I don't really like late nights. So that wasn't going to be a very good combination. So, so beer kind of seemed like it would be the best option to go for. And also, this was when kind of craft beer was really taken off in the UK, where you had brands like Thornbridge and Meantime and Camden that were all quite exciting, quite kind of sexy, and that seemed like it would be a really good, fun, exciting thing to do.
All right. Well, I'd like to dig a bit further into that perception of the fun that it was going to be. But Ren, how about you? What's the thing about beer? I know flavor, but what drew you to it?
I mean, I'm not fancy, so hearing Dave talk about the beer that he drinks, I'm like, yeah, I do that too. I think that really what drew me in, I was a little older when I got to the beer world, so I was in my mid 30s. Because at that point I was a wine and whiskey drinker, and I think it was just the experience that really drew me in, and just the way that people would talk about it, and I had never heard beer talked about that way. And I think it was the ability to like meet people like Charlotte. Like you could go into a brewery and like there's your brewer, and have this experience that I had never had before. So I was really fascinated by just being surrounded by the people and hearing the stories. So I think that was kind of what caught me at first. I mean, I have 20 years of finance, and I was in management for a very long time. So that job leads you to drink. So I was pretty open to anything with an alcohol content.
Anything with an ABV, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, but I love that. So the
Yes.
people, because we do the big monolithic distilleries or the big companies, the big brands in beer or whatever it is, we don't really see behind the facade, and that's part of the design, of course. But so there wasn't a human appeal. Charlotte, growing up where you grew up, did you know brewers or people in distilling?
Well, our next door neighbor is a distiller, and in Speyside, everybody works in distillation. They deliver it, they put it into casks, they fix the casks, they make it, they bottle it. It's kind of, Speyside runs on whiskey.
Aye.
And I love whiskey, but there's a really long time payoff to find out whether or not your plan has worked out or not. And I'm not patient enough to be a distiller. So at least with brewing, you get some concrete results within a month.
Right, so that's part of the appeal, is you can change quickly. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was always told that if going into brewing, you think you're going to be a brewer, but you spend 99% of your time washing up, cleaning.
Oh yeah. Brewers are just janitors who end up with some free booze at the end of the day. There's a huge amount of it's cleaning, sanitization. If you get any sort of little beasties in your beer, you're going to be pouring it down the drain, and you don't want to do that. So, you spend a lot of time cleaning, a lot of time just lugging things around, 25 kilo sacks of malt up and down stairs, digging out mash tuns. A lot of craft breweries, there's no automatic plow to empty a mash tun. So it's just you and a spade, really. So
Free gym as well, then. So it's a brewery and the gym.
yeah, when Brewdog moved to their automated plant, I'm pretty sure that all of the brewers realized for the first time in their life that they needed to get gym memberships. Because you forget how much it keeps you fit, just being up on your feet all day, up and down stairs, and moving things around.
Well, Charlotte, I've heard you speak about this too, and I've got buddies who've told the story as well, that it is crazy physical. Certainly, like you suggest, more than distilling, where I have more experience working with friends who work in distilleries than brewing. But it is so physical. Does that filter? Does that come into a job interview? Does it say, like, are you up for this? Are you tough enough?
I think that in a way, yes. I also think that now it's getting better in that people are willing to make adaptations to make it more accessible for people who aren't, 6'5", like great sort of like Slavic lads. So it is getting better. I still see job interviews where it's kind of like, job adverts where it says the requirement of the job is to be able to lift 50 kilos. Nobody should be expected to lift 50 kilos at work. That's absolutely preposterous. But there are ways of still doing it, even though it's physical. You just have to be clever and let people make adaptations and encourage people to make adaptations as well. So there's absolutely no point in ruining your back to make beer, in my opinion.
Well,
You
right, okay.
certainly wouldn't get away with lifting 50 kilos in an engineering background, that's for sure.
No. And but that's it. Brewing is portrayed as being this like super interesting, super kind of like desirable job that people are just going to put up with the absolute bullshit in order to get in. And then that feeds in that people think that this is what I was expected to do, so it's what you should be expected to do. And it's just a continual cycle of absolute nonsense where people feel that because they suffered, people who come behind them have to suffer. Whereas they could just kind of like, be nice and think, well, I had to do that. That wasn't very good. So let's make it so that you don't have to do that.
Yeah, well, that's I see, Ren. I see you frantically nodding at that. So this is a vignette you've heard or experienced yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be in sales, and it was the same thing. I think you have to be able to lift 50 kilos, and it's like, why? I mean, yes, you will have to do it occasionally because you'll have to deliver a keg or you'll have to do something, but it's not like you're walking down the street carrying a keg for 2 hours. And I think that, yeah, there is this idea that, I mean, and also it keeps certain people out of the job. It keeps certain people out of that industry because there are a lot of people who are like, I cannot lift that. Like, there is no way in hell I'm doing it. And what they don't tell you is that, well, we'll give you a dolly, or we'll give you this, or we'll allow you to make these concessions to do it. And I think that, obviously there are a lot of women and a lot of people with disabilities who are like, I can't do it. And it's like, actually, we can help you do it. They just don't tell you that.
Yeah, well, that's a fucking pain in the ass, isn't it? So, because it's certainly with home brewing. So, I mean, we could talk about the roots of the micro and craft brewing becoming a thing, but one tipping point, I guess, in the States was the legalization of home brewing at the beginning of the 80s or the end of the 70s. You wouldn't have to lift 50 kilos to home brew, so it's this great moment of democratization of beer. We can make our own alcohol at home in freedom land. Great. But then when it becomes an industry, it does. You look at these images of the teams who worked at some of the craft breweries that were set up, and this is an industry that grew 20% year on year between 1985 and 1995, and they were big, strong men, taller than me, stronger than me. Is that already decided because of the like you say, Charlotte, the demand of the work? Because I suffered this way, it needs to be this way. Is there something intrinsic of being sort of gruff and buff about it?
I think so, and I think that kind of a lot of the guys who work in breweries, they kind of take quite a lot of pride in that as well. There is definitely a stereotype of brewers, and I think that people do kind of like it. You walk around the craft brewers conference, and it's just a sea of Dickies work shirts and beards as far as the eye can see. Completely essentially just 5,000 people who all look exactly the same. And you don't really, And I think that, it's people see other people doing a job and they look like them and think, hey, I could do that. That's why I think it's important that we put a highlight on the people who don't look like that, so that, the rest of the population can look at them and say, hey, I can do that. And I think that's, really important.
Yeah, so that brings us to what you've been working on for years now, Ren. So tell us a bit about that, about how to make a more representative visual of this industry. I don't think I asked that well, did I? Go ahead.
No, I get it. I think it's just, stop posting pictures of just white guys drinking beer. Like, I think that we keep diving into this like deep moment of like, but how do we fix the problem? Like, let's sit and meditate on it, and like maybe I'll get hit by this lightning bolt of enlightenment. And it's like, just stop showing all of these pictures of dudes. Like, that's it, and I think that it's representation is your first step, and it's the pieces that you can do, and then stop saying like, I don't know where to find these people. And it's like, I don't know, I hang it in pubs. I'm at breweries drinking your beer, and I think that because we get sucked into this like vortex of overthinking it, it's impossible to make it happen, and I think it's bullshit, but that's where we're at. And I mean, there's still the old guard, right? Like, I've thrown out this like easy line that should have put me out of business like in day 2, but there's still a lot of people who are holding on very tightly to that image of like beer is a blue collar manly man beverage, and I mean, obviously with all the things that have been coming up lately, and the fact that we're even having to talk about it just tells you that it's still so firmly ingrained, and it's really hard to change.
But then how do we reconcile? So I hear that, man. And how do we reconcile, though, then, if we're saying, Charlotte's saying you go to a beer show and it is a bunch of guys that look like me and Dave, is the onus then on the distiller or the brewer, excuse me, I'm going to do that this whole fucking episode, on the brewer in their marketing material, on their Instagrams and on their TikToks, to not represent that majority?
No, I mean, you still represent it because that's what's there, but you show that other people drink it and other people make it, and you do it in a way that isn't like tokenism. You're not going to throw out one picture and be like, see, we have a woman working for us, and then never talk about her again. And marketing is everything. If I see one more place do like a women's beer, I'm going on a spree, and it's going to be terrible. Stop making beer gendered.
What's a woman's beer?
Like,
I need to know.
I was out a couple. Well, no, but I mean, like, I was out a couple of weeks ago, and I asked for an IPA, and the waiter said, like, we're out, but we have this really great fruited sour, and I was like, that's not the same as an IPA. Like, what? Why are you offering me a fruited sour? Like, I hate fruited sours. Like, I asked for an IPA for a reason, It's just this, like, notion of, like, woman asks for beer, must be fruited sour. And, like, ain't nothing wrong with a fruited sour if you like it, but, like, that should not be the offer. And you should not be surprised that I've asked for something that has some percentage to it because that's what I enjoy. And I think that, that's what we get wrong in marketing.
That is hilarious. Yeah. Okay. So all right. Is that what would?
But the thing is, that's my everyday. Like, I mean, I've had people ask me if I actually drink beer. Like, it's this thing where it's like, yes, it's hilarious as a one-off, but if you do this every day of your life, it is absolute bullshit. Like, if I had a quarter, don't even give me $1, just give me a quarter for every person who has asked me something incredibly, incredibly sexist or racist about my knowledge of beer, we would be recording this on my private island of one of 3 private islands. Like, that's where we'd be at. Like, and I mean, I've been in beer for 9 years. Like, this is 9 years of this. Like, if I'd been in it for any longer, I mean, maybe I'd have 10 private islands. I don't know. But
you'd be in a rocket up to
this is
space
all the time.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would have bought space. Forget the rocket. I would have bought space. I own space. I would just own it.
You see this kind of shit over the last...
I would have charged them with trespassing.
I would like that actually already. I'd like owning space already.
This kind of shit's heartbreaking, and especially so because you are, the examples you're talking about where you'd make all this money every time someone asked you this are probably coming from my hometown, like where we think we're a liberal, open-minded, multicultural society.
It comes from everywhere, though. I mean, I've been, I'm like, I always say I'm #blessed because I'm getting to do more international work, but it's everywhere. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, it comes from down the street. It comes from, just name a country that I've talked to, and someone will have asked something where I'm just like, all right, do you understand? This is why you have a problem? And it's just, I think it's, again, back to that whole ingrained notion of who the product is for. Because we have put it in such gendered terms and gendered appearances. I mean, like old school adverts for like Schlitz beer. I keep thinking of it. It's like this old school photo of this woman who's like burnt dinner and she brings him a beer and he's like, at least you didn't burn the beer. Like, ha, like it's not even that the woman gets to enjoy it. It's that, and I mean, some of that is still around. We haven't gotten past that.
That's what I was hoping to get to a moment ago when we were speaking about this fact that Charlotte, you're saying that the brewing festival, the beer festival, will be dominated by a certain demographic. That's a result of marketing.
Yeah,
you have to acknowledge that that's a result of. Yeah. Isn't it? Go ahead.
It's just it is. It's a result of marketing, and especially in kind of craft beer, people kind of like almost connect their identity with the brand identity of the breweries that they like, that they kind of champion. And especially when they kind of, they offer crumbs, like say, buy some shares, completely useless shares that you're not going to get anything from, or crowdfund this. It gives them a little bit of ownership of it. And they take that really far. They take it so far, like, to be able to not be able to differentiate their personality from the things that they buy to that sort of extent. And yeah, that's all because of the way that craft beer has been marketed and the kind of like this sort of chatty accessibleness that they opened up, that kind of, it's, you're only kind of peeking in the door really. But people really think that with that kind of little bit of access that they get quite a lot from it, and that emboldens them and gives them kind of quite a lot of really undeserved kind of power as well. Not sure if any of that made any sense, but it all makes sense in my head.
It does make sense, but what's sort of strange is it sounds like so much more than a drink.
Yeah, people, it becomes kind of, like a lifestyle and an identity. People absorb parts of beer brands into their personal identity, and I find that really quite upsetting as well. Like, imagine if somebody wanted to absorb, Marlboro cigarettes into part of their identity, so much so that they would, walk through the streets wearing Marlboro cigarette merchandise and tell all the friends that you
They
need
do,
to,
yeah,
need to
They,
smoke
they
Marlboro
did in the
cigarettes.
70s. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Or something, or try and think of another example that might be slightly more like, a particular brand of crisps or something. These brands aren't, their value and their kind of worthiness isn't any greater than anything else, but people just seem to attribute so much to them, and I don't understand where that comes from or why. But I find it quite disturbing in a lot of ways.
I find it fucking fascinating though, because there has to be some of that because we buy into brands. I don't know. Do you guys? Can you think of any examples with whiskey that happening?
People getting tattoos with their brands, Ardbeg tattoos.
Ardbeg tattoos, yeah.
Ardbeg tattoos, or loads. How many Ardbeg tattoos have you seen? I've
seen
whiskey
a few.
tattoos. You've seen quite a few. Yeah, I've seen an awful lot of them. Yeah.
What, on your arm, Dave?
Let me show you boutique whiskey. 1 minute. Right across my chest.
No, but we buy into brands we identify with, I guess. And so by intentionally excluding groups in the representation, we are intentionally excluding people. Is that the rationale? Does that follow?
Yeah, I think so. It's when people absorb the identity of a brand into their personal identity, then it becomes a club, and people don't want to let others into that club unless they feel like they align precisely with them a lot of the time. And I do think that happens in beer a lot.
Well, sadly, I'm sure it happens everywhere. We work in the drink area, so we're seeing it and trying to remedy it in our spheres. But I think that's what this episode is trying to get at, is like, what can we do? You can only affect the part of the world you can affect. Ren, you've done awesome work on this for years, and I think there's more to be done. Charlotte, you're speaking about this almost weekly with people, aren't you? I'm reading your name constantly right now, because it's almost like people are awakening to something that's been in front of you for longer than it has been in front of my eyes. You've been aware of being insulted by what feels like to the asker an innocent question, but is a highly offensive question. And once it's funny, 20 times or 10 years later, it's fucking annoying. And we're at this point where we're reconciled. We're trying to. Are we going to be able to change it? I want to talk about what the future could look like. I want to play a silly game. I want to lighten the chat a little bit. God damn, this is getting heavy. What are you drinking these days, Ren?
I'm literally looking at my desk, and I've got
Tully XO Cardew.
I've got some Cardew.
Yeah.
Those are literally sitting on my office desk, so that's how things have been going, and that's what I'm drinking.
It's rare that you see a bottle of Cardew that isn't almost empty, which is a good sign. It's the best endorsement possible.
Yeah.
How about you, Charlotte? What's your tipple been this summer?
Mostly rosé wine, to be honest. I'm writing up my master's thesis on the use of dry hopping in beer, so I'm so absolutely fucking sick of beer and hops that by the end of the day, all I want to do is have some rosé on my balcony and watch the good people of Clapham go by.
Brilliant. Yeah. Dave, you managed to arrange a game for us today.
I have got a game, yeah. I'm just going to try and share it right now.
Well, listen, Rand, it's great you have a bottle or two even on the table. This is the Uncorked podcast. So the way we buzz in when we're playing our games is by pulling a bottle. You're in Speyside. You must have a bottle nearby. Do you, Charlotte?
I'm pretty sure that there will be one. Hang on, give me a sec.
No sweat. That's the idea. Then when you know the answer, you buzz in by going, that's right. And maybe when Charlotte comes back...
It's like, hopefully I can get...
Dave.
Oh, there we go.
Dave will explain the premise of the game.
I got it.
So,
That sounded good. That sounded real good.
I'm not sure. We didn't know what to call it. We played this white dog, corn dog thing because in America they call New Make Spirit white dog, and it was the uncorked cowboy. I've got my cowboy hat up there, but we had the uncorked. We started doing this a long time ago for our afternoon tea sessions, and we tried to lighten them up during the beginning of the first lockdown. Tried to lighten them up by doing some stupid games and putting on stupid hats every day. And so we came up with this white dog, corn dog, where I would make up names of distilleries, and if it was one of them that I'd made out, you shouted corn dog, and if it was a real distillery, we shouted white dog. So this is similar sort of thing, but it is obviously the craft brewery edition. Now,
So, Dave, before you get too far, Charlotte, we're still waiting on Charlotte, so just hold on a sec.
I can't. Yeah,
Charlotte's grabbing a bottle.
Charlotte's.
Yeah. There's always
This one.
fun.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Sweet.
And a good choice.
I'll go back. I'll go back then. I'll go back. Do you get any sound with this?
No, I can't hear anything if there's something coming
Okay,
through.
because it's just playing in my head.
If you share it back, if you leave and share again, I think you can click a little square that says share audio also.
I didn't see that. That's what I was looking for.
Well, maybe not then.
Maybe
This
not
is
in
a
here.
high tech. Aren't you glad you took the time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this?
Okay, so we'll explain that again. Oh, I'll explain that again. This game is called White Dog Corn Dog. It's a game that we made up a long time ago when we were doing our afternoon tea sessions on Instagram Live. And what I've done is I would make up a few distillery names, and I'd find some obscure distillery names in the States. And if it was a real distillery, you shouted White Dog. And if it's just a yes/no game. That's all it is. And if it was a distillery I'd made up, you'd shout Corn Dog. Now, White Dog, Corn Dog, that's all it is here. But this time it is the craft brewery edition. Now, I know very, very little about craft breweries. I know there's a few around me, and I have visited one, and it is a one-man band, and I love what he does there, although I don't know if I've drunk an awful lot of his beer. But I had to use our good friend Google. Other search engines are available to search some craft breweries in the UK, in the US, and Canada, and try and find some names. And then I had to make some up. Now, what I did notice when I was Googling, like these are the best Canadian craft breweries, and these are the best, nearly quite an awful lot of them had animals involved in them. So there's another link here. So they've all have an animal. You know, there's animals in just about not every brewery, but an awful lot of them in craft breweries. So there's
And look, animals are majorly underrepresented in all the marketing. Wouldn't you agree, Rand?
and they drink an awful lot of beer.
Oh, yeah.
By the looks of things.
Yeah, there's like no animals.
I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
Okay, so what this is, if you think it's one that I've made up, you shout Corn Dog. I don't know what the beer terms are for messed up, but and if it's a real brewery, you shout White Dog, and you pull your cork to buzz in. And I can't remember what I've done on this, and I won't remember any of them apart from one because it's my local one. It's the only one I know off the top of my head. So here we go, eyes down looking, and for the first one, look, I've even got the rules here. If it's real, White Dog. If I've made it up, yell Corn Dog.
All right, don't forget to buzz in with Uncorked. All right.
White Dog or Corn Dog, the Flying Monkeys Craft Brewery.
That was Ren.
It's a White Dog.
Yeah, it's a White Dog, is it? Okay, I thought I'd make that up. 1 minute. You're definitely right. It's a Canadian brewery in Barrie, Ontario, with beers such as
I was like, it's in Barrie, Ontario.
Barrie. Yeah, is that right? Barrie, Ontario. It's Fireworks, Karate, Sparkle Puff. I like the sound of Sparkle Puff. Tiny Little Blizzards. Oh, that sounds quite fun. And 12 Minutes to
Wicked
Destiny.
names.
12 Minutes to Destiny. That's the one you order at Last Orders. Do they do Last Orders in the bell? Ding ding. 10 to 11. Last Orders. 12 Minutes to Destiny.
No, they don't. They don't do a bell. They just politely come over and say, "It's last call. It's, last call."
There we go. Okay, that's how we play it.
All right, Ren's on the board. Oh, that was just a demo?
That's on the board. That's on the board. That's a point
Just
there.
on the board. All right.
Dogfish Head Craft Brewery.
Oh, that's quite stiff.
Sam was there first, I think.
That's real. That's one of the originals, isn't it? That's like mid '90s American brewery. I'm saying
can't
White
remember.
Dog.
Okay. Oh, it is. Yes, you did right. It is it's a US brewery founded in 1995. You did right. It must be one of the. They've got lots of IPAs with times against it. 120-minute IPA, 60-minute IPA, 90-minute IPA, and the one I like the most is the Must.
Okay.
Okay, let's go. Okay, here we go. Cheeky Raccoon Brewing Company. The Cheeky Raccoon Brewing Company. Charlotte's going for
Charlotte's
it.
in.
I'm going to say that's a corn dog.
A corn dog. Yeah, I reckon. Well, they all sound like corn dogs to me at the moment. Okay, yes, I did make that one up. Although there is a raccoon brewery in Lille, in France. I didn't know that either, but Google helped me out. Yeah, trying to find corn dogs with animals in it was a real nightmare because there's so many breweries with bloody raccoons, and like one in Lille. Okay, the Steel Badger Brewery.
Sorry. You had to like double check that you hadn't actually made a real brewery name.
Yeah, I had to
that's
double check
hilarious.
every corn dog. I had to double check, and they were I found some. Yeah. Okay, here we go. It's the Steel Badger. Is it a white dog or is it a corn dog?
I think that was Ren.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with White Dog.
It is. No, this one is I made up. Now there is a Badger beers over here.
Dang it.
See, there's an animal link everywhere. Got the red pen. We got the red pen, Sam.
Yeah. Anything. Yeah.
Badger Beers, I know Badger Beers over here. It's an independent family-owned brewery in Dorset. Not the Dorset. I'm probably in the Dorsetshire town or something like that. Okay, here we go. The Gopher Craft Beer Company. The Gopher Craft Beer Company.
That was Charlotte.
I'm going to say that's a white dog.
A white dog. Yeah, I like the sound of that as well. I really do like the sound of that one. But no,
Sounds like a
unfortunately,
joke, doesn't it?
I made that one up because it was literally taken from our White Dog Corn Dog Whiskey series when I called it the Gopher Whiskey because I just like the idea. I'm going for a whiskey. The Gopher Whiskey.
Right.
I
Kim
like
Mitchell.
this
That's
one
Kim
up.
Mitchell, Ren.
Oh,
Right? That's a
yeah.
little
Go for a soda.
Canadian reference.
Okay, here comes the next one. The Concrete Cow Brewery. That's the only one I know.
Lower sound. I think it was Ren.
It's the only one.
Yeah,
it's
I
the only
didn't
one I.
pull it well enough. I'm gonna go
Aye,
White Dog.
it is. It's my local. It is my local. The Concrete Cow
that's the
Brewery
one.
is in Milton Keynes, just over there. Milton Keynes is famous for a set of concrete cows, apparently. And yeah, it's not far from Concrete Cows. It's not a brewery. It's a one-man band. I went there a little while ago, well, quite a few years ago now, to go have a word with him. He is actually making whiskey with the Wharf Distillery in Northampton. So he was distilling some of his beer when I went to see him he was using a distillery in Cambridge to distill some of his wash, and he was just bottling it as new make spirit and calling it Sacred Cow Spirit, I think it was. But yeah, they local brewery, my local. It's the one I know. It's the only craft brewery I know, and I really should buy some of this beer and try it out, check it out. The Copper Beaver Brewery. The Copper Beaver Brewery. Is it a white dog or is it one I've made up? It's a corn.
That was Charlotte. Sorry.
I think that's a corn dog.
I'm pretty certain it is as well.
Fucking better be.
Ah, yes. And there's, well, yeah, I made this one. Yeah, Copper Flux Distillery. Oh, why did I got the distillery? Yes, because I had the distillery. Yes, of course. Berryville, Virginia, and Beaverton Brewery in London. Yeah, there are breweries with beavers in them as well, you know. Animals everywhere. Cows, beavers, eagles, every brewery. Monkeys. The Wolf Brewery. Real white dog. It's got to be real, hasn't it?
Ren, was that you?
It's got to be real.
Yep. I'm gonna go White Dog.
It's got to be, hasn't it? Yes, indeed, it is. It's Howling Good Beer from Norfolk, or so their website says, with, I like the names of these: Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, Golden Jackal, Sirius Dogstar, and Granny Wouldn't Like It. I like the sound of that, Granny Wouldn't Like It.
I'm stealing that for a whiskey. Dave, you got to write that down. We're stealing that one. That's hilarious.
Hey, there's some great names. I mean, yeah, some really great names. It was a lot of fun researching these, I must admit. Question 9. The Moosehead Breweries. The Moosehead Breweries.
Dave.
I think
that was Ren. Ren, I think you're disqualified.
Okay, it's obviously a big one.
Charlotte, you can answer.
You knew it, Sam, as well, then.
I think it's a white dog.
I'm still clueless, to be honest. No, I write them. Yes, it is. It is. It's in St. John, New Brunswick. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the last independent and truly Canadian brewery in Canada, according to their website. Is that true, Len?
It's not the last independent, but it's one of the largest.
That's right. Okay. It's a group of breweries, isn't it? It's a big group of breweries.
It's just one. It's like family owned still.
Oh, is it? I didn't even know. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry for the state of these. John wasn't here to help me with these games. He was on holiday when we made this game up.
Don't say that, Dave. By the time this is aired, he will have made it look pretty. No one will know what you're talking about right now.
I'm talking about the research I've done into. He did a lot more research in some of the other games. So, yeah. Okay, Bear Republic Brewing Company. Bear Republic Brewing Company. Is it?
Yeah, that's Charlotte.
Right on.
Enthusiastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a white dog.
It's a white dog. It is. It's this is an unusual one because it's in the heart of wine country in Cloverdale, California. Is that unusual? I don't know. That's what they said on the website. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of any of these apart from the Conquered Cow. The Crafty Fox Brewing Company. Oh, crikey, so many foxes in beer. Foxy beers. Foxes and beers.
That was a low Cardew cork. Ren?
Yeah. I'm going to say corn dog.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
And you are right. I made this one up. There is a Crafty Brewing Company in Godalming and a Wiley Fox Brewery in Wigan, but there wasn't a Crafty Fox. Lots of foxes, but not a Crafty Fox. The Buffalo Bayou Brewing Company. Buffalo Bayou Brewing Company.
Charlotte's going for it.
I'm going to say that's a white dog.
It's a white dog. I can't help you because I can't remember. But here we go. It is. Oh, it is. It is Houston's most creative brewery, apparently, according to their website, with beers such as the Great White Buffalo, of course, Buffalo Sunset, Turtle Murder, and More Cowbell. That is my absolute favourite. More Cowbell. I love More Cowbell. Is that it? Thank you very much for playing, and winners all round. My apologies for the research.
Well, hopefully there was a laugh or two in there. You guys did very well. Thanks for that. It was a good reminder actually that beer's so fun. Like beer is a fun communal elixir. Brings the community together and everything. So we've had this. I mean, all the stories that have come out over the last 6 months. We have all the work that you're doing, Ren, addressing a problem that's not new. Can whiskey still be whiskey? I told you I would do that. Can beer still be fun? Like, is the future of beer still safe? Is there long irreparable damage that's happened, or can we still be fun? Will there still be stupid names and the fun associations with craft beer?
I think that there should be.
Yeah, I think so, but I think that we have to. I mean, obviously, yeah, right. Like, I feel it'd be weird to be like, no, we have to stop it. I think I think it's going to stick around.
Cowbell.
Dave, you don't even watch TV. Do you know what that reference is from, even?
Yeah, because it gets shared around regularly on the little Facebook video that people share it, don't they? Yeah, I do, yeah. It's Blue Oyster Cult, isn't it? And,
That's right. Okay.
I don't know who any of them are, apart from it's a spoof on Blue Oyster Cult with more cowbell. I absolutely love it. Kat will tell you, my daughter Kat, we were working a whiskey show up in Fife. I think it was our first ever Scottish Whiskey Festival. We worked together. And we were staying in this little apartment in Glasgow. And someone had sent it to me, and I was playing. I'm deaf, and I wear hearing aids. And obviously, I didn't have my hearing aids in that morning while I was playing this video on my phone at full blast. And all my daughter could hear was this fucking cowbell, ding, 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 because I was playing this stupid video in early in the morning while she was trying to lay in. And she has fond memories of me keep playing this more cowbell, because all she could hear was a fucking cowbell because I didn't have my hearing aids in. I was playing it loud. Yeah.
So there you go. That's a fun beer name. The associated with beer should be fun and light, but we are dealing with some pretty heavy, industry changing themes just now. Charlotte, what are your thoughts about keeping the fun? I mean, I'm not suggesting Jim Murray. I hope that in the post-Jim Murray world, we can still call a whiskey orgasmic and it's not going to offend somebody, but it's different to go further down that line. So what do we think, Charlotte?
I think that it's really important that beer should still be fun because, fundamentally you should be drinking beer to have a good time. You sit down with your friends, have a couple of pints. It shouldn't be a thing that people don't enjoy or that they feel is kind of too serious. I don't think there's any point in over-intellectualizing beer and beer names. It's just use the fundamental sort of principle of, is this going to really upset somebody? Is this going to hurt somebody? Am I using my kind of relative power to get a name that I think's funny but is going to cause harm to other people? And I think that just using that and taking on board what other people say is going to make a massive difference. You can't just say, I'm going to call it this because I think it's funny, ha ha ha. You have to think about the impact that your words have on other people. But don't use that as an excuse to say, oh, these people are taking all the fun out of it. Nobody's taking the fun out of it. We're just asking people to think about others, and that's it.
Well, I love that, being conscious of power. I think that's such a great call out, because even Ren calling me out for using casually the term Nazi earlier. I think as a Jew, I probably do oversimplify and overuse a term like that, which is insensitive, more widely things. So being conscious of power, I love that phrase. Ren, how about you then?
Yeah.
You think about fun or about addressing power.
I think that the problem that we have right now within the industry is that people always say, I'm just joking, I'm just kidding, it's just it's just a joke, lighten up. And I think that we have to be smarter about these jokes, because part of the problem that we're seeing is that there is this influx of inside jokes that inevitably make a person or a culture or a group of people the butt of that joke. And you know what, you can have a million puns on things and you can still make it like smart jokes. But when you get called out, don't be like, you're just too sensitive. You can't take a joke. What's the problem with it? And that is currently the reaction to things. I mean, if you look at all the trolls, that's all they ever say. It's like, if you don't like it, just make your own, like, do this. And it's like, yeah, but if I made my own and I created my own brewery, like, I wouldn't invite you and I wouldn't fix the problem. So it's this, it's this ability to just kind of be an adult. Like, if someone is offended by the joke and it's because you have made a racially insensitive joke, then, like, guess what? You got to learn from it. You got to make some changes. Like, it's not that hard. It is not that hard to be a, like, half decent human. Really, bare bones minimum.
But how do we gauge that, man? Because, like, other than Charlotte, as you suggested, I really love, and I've written it down here, being conscious of your own privilege and your own power. That's how else are you supposed to navigate that? Because I watched my kids this weekend. I got 3 daughters. Watch this Luca film that's just come out from Disney, and I think that if I was Italian, I would have found it offensive. I would have found parts of it ridiculing my culture, and it was innocent. It wasn't saying, oh, all Italians are laborers or there was nothing like that. But there was this whole fisherman thing. Everything was a mamma mia mozzarella. It was like everything was a cheese. It was just a bit, I don't know, farcical. And So how do we actually do that, Rand? Because I think there's a lot of well-intentioned people who are doing the wrong thing sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not all going to get it right. Like that's part of growth and just living. But I mean, I like the fact that you said that the Luca thing is it's kind of this innocence. It's not. It's created by adults. They know what they're doing. And your kids are going to watch it like 18 million more times, and it's going to be ingrained in them. Like they're going to be screaming mozzarella at Italian people soon, and you're going to have to explain that they learned it from a Disney film that they've seen a billion times. And I think that a lot of it is that we have to stop saying like it was well intentioned, because a lot of things in history that were well intentioned did not end well. And it's like, and it's like, not to make it dark. I mean, beer is it's just beer. It's just beer, but we have put so much worth into it, and we have given it so much valuation that it's kind of hard to claw it back. And
that's sort of what makes these spaces
it's hard to say like, don't worry about it. We can get it right. But I think there's a lot of people who are making some really solid changes. And yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic.
So how have you seen that at work then, with beer diversity or beyond? How have you seen those people affecting positive change?
Well, I mean, it's like, watch the news, right? Like there's, the women of the Bevolution, there's Charlotte showing up and talking about her reality constantly and making it that it's in people's faces. And we're taking it outside of the industry, because we kept talking about it within the industry, and we kept saying we can fix ourselves from the inside out. And it's like, we can't do that anymore. And so there's, obviously like Brienne Allen and doing the like Rap Magnet Instagram, like innocent question, and seeing this huge change. But what we are now doing is putting it forward and saying, we all knew this. Ask any woman, ask any marginalized or underrepresented person in this industry. And we all said, we've known that as long as we've been in this industry. And now we're like pulling the curtains back and being like, check it, like shit's on fire. Like, and we've all known about it, and we're just kind of staying warm by it, but we can't be doing this. And I think that that's the big difference. And yeah, I think that the more of us who talk about it outside of the industry, that's how we're really going to make some change.
All right, Charlotte, any thoughts on that?
I think Ren's totally right. Every time that I've ever tried to bring it up, you just get told, oh, you're being too sensitive, oh, it's not that bad, or like, boys will be boys, don't worry about it. And it was kind of when Brienne sort of got it out into the public eye, and it was kind of like, see, it's true, you can't ignore it. And that's why I decided to take it to Women's Hour and to the media, because it's sort of a one person saying something over and over again kind of maybe slightly chips away at the wall and makes a little bit of a difference here and there, and people notice that you're doing it. But if there's a full force of over 1,000 people all submitting their experiences, then you really just can't ignore it. I think it's a real shame that it took there to be such a kind of critical mass of people for it to kind of spill over and to actually become something that people couldn't ignore. But also for the hundreds of people who've been sort of like slowly chipping away at the wall themselves, it was just the bolster that was needed for everything to get out into public. And once people who aren't just inside the industry become aware of it, then they can make informed choices with what they buy, what they see, if they see kind of sexist or racist imagery used in brewery advertising, then they can say, you know what, I'm not going to buy that beer, and I'm going to call them out for it and ask why they're saying this. And I think that kind of, that's really important, because if people are aware that it happens, then they can take small steps in their individual lives to lessen the hurt that people feel.
That's awesome. Yeah. Dave, on the Italian beer you mentioned off the top, is there a character on the front saying Santa Pecorino or anything like that?
I have no idea. There's a man on it. There's a man drinking beer on it. I think that's for. I mean, I must admit, I'm not very good at taking notice of any advertisements. I don't watch. I unplugged my TV a long time ago, and even if I see an advertisement in a Facebook video, I've gone. I've moved on, so I'm not very clever at this sort of thing. But I just know I think someone bought me. I think the kids bought me a case of it, and it was tasty. I thought, I'll get another. Just put another case of that in the fridge. Kanban system, ex-engineer. So there's always a case on the floor and a case in the fridge. So there's. But I need to drink better. I guess I do need to drink better, and I was hoping you'd be able to educate me a little bit about what I should be looking at, because where should I be looking at? I know there's dreadful beer in the supermarkets, big names, but I Guinness is, I guess, my rugby background. Every rugby ground in the country, in the UK. It's certainly the big internationals over here are all sponsored by Guinness, and I like Guinness. It's easy drink. It's a meal, easy drinking beer, and I like a cold lager, and that really comes from my Thai days out in Thailand, drinking ice cold lager, and I like it icy cold. But where are the breweries? What are the breweries that we should be looking at in craft brewing?
I would say just look on your own doorstep first and foremost. There's hundreds of breweries springing up around the world. And in Milton Keynes, there's probably 3 or 4 local craft breweries that would all be absolutely delighted for you to go and kind of try their beers. I think that's the same for everybody. You can just kind of put into Google brewery near me, and you'll probably come up with something that's close enough that you could get a bus to or even walk to. And I think it's really nice to support local. It might be really crap, in which case probably not going to last that long, but for the most part,
I will do that, Charlotte.
There's loads of really tasty beers, easily available, that you can buy direct from the producer pretty much anywhere that you are. Even here up in Speyside, there are 4 or 5 craft breweries. So
yeah. I will Google that. Yeah, I mean, I do know the Concrete Cow, and I know he sells it on a Saturday morning. He sells it, and I'm sure I bought some when I was over there, but I haven't been back, I must admit. But Bedford town, just up the road, is a big brewing town. A long time ago, most of Bedford Riverfront was a brewery. Well before I moved here, the Wells Brewery, I think. But that's just is that another big multinational now, or?
No, they've actually stopped brewing. They just have oh no, Wells, sorry, I'm thinking of Young's. Yeah, Wells are still pretty big. Yeah, I think they're independent though.
Right, I should ask my daughter. She knows an awful lot more about beer than I do. There's a much better tasting beer than I have. Okay, Google your local area, find a brewery, go and see them, and try some local ales. That's what I'm going to do.
Thanks for taking the time to do this, guys. Dave, any final thoughts or anything?
No, just lovely to meet you both, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I've learnt a little bit about, and I will search out some local beers. I definitely will. It's something I've wanted to do. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
Dave, next episode, so follow us. Yeah, thanks. Dave, what are we doing next week? Do you know?
What are we doing next week?
I say week. Jesus, who knows?
What are we doing next week?
Do we have a topic? Have you seen that thing, Heist? You see that thing on net? Oh, you don't watch TV. Never mind. Anyway, maybe we'll go to Buffalo Trace stuff. Thanks for listening. I've been Dr. Whiskey.
And I've been Boutique Dave.
Uncorked. Signing out.
Bye.
Hey everybody, can you hear my voice?
Yes, a little loud, Sam.
Ah, tough shit, you got no choice. So grab a glass and sit back in your chair, 'cause Uncorked is going live to